To me, a good twist, when it lands, your feeling should be, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see that. And sometimes to me, what writers will do is they'll simply hide the information so much. It comes out at the end, you're like, oh, so the killer was the waiter who was on screen for 2 seconds, and that's not fun. I shouldn't have guessed that. It's fun when like it was right there, but I missed it.
Thank you very much for joining me today, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
Today we have on the show Megan Gallagher, the lead writer and showrunner of Peacock's new miniseries, All Her Fault, starring Sarah Snook. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I was wondering, could you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of walk us through your career, how you ended up running a major television show?
Like you said, my name is Megan Gallagher. I have a bit of a different trajectory probably than a lot of people who work in Hollywood. I'm American by birth, but I moved, and I went to film school in the US and, always wanted to be a screenwriter, but I, ended up moving to Norway about 17, 18 years ago, something like that. And I happened to be in Norway, right when the boom of television was really happening. So it was when, the streaming boom and Netflix was really leading that charge. And they were just gobbling up content from around the world. And I ended up being this really unique person because I was an American, I wrote in English. But I lived in foreign territories and I was familiar with foreign culture and foreign language and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up, I think my foot in the door really ended up coming from being overseas, which wasn't part of the plan at all. I would love to pretend that I was that smart, but I was not. It was very much right place, right time. And I just sort of built from there. I started working in the UK. I've made a couple shows there now. And now I've been fortunate enough to sell a show into Peacock through their international studio. And that's how All Her Fault came to be.
That's fantastic. And such an interesting story. I mean, nobody really thinks, yes, if you're in the US and you want to make shows in Hollywood, the first thing you should do is immediately leave.
Yeah, it wasn't a plan, I promise.
No, it's fantastic that it worked in such a positive way. Do you think how do you think your overseas perspective, do you think that influences your work? You have a broader perspective than most Americans, or do you think it influences it at all?
I don't know that I have a broader experience, but I definitely have a different experience. I've largely worked out of the British system, which is a really different system than the American system in terms of how writers' rooms are run, and generally how television is made. Overall, I would say that the UK is less formal than the US. Is a bit more casual. I would say that creative control is a little bit more evenly distributed. In the US, it's very much the showrunner who absolutely has the final say on everything. And in the UK system, you work a little bit more equally with your fellow executive producers, which is a sharing of creative control, but it's also a sharing of responsibilities, which is really nice when you have nice creative partners, as I do. It's really lovely. Writers' rooms are run differently too. In the US, they might spend 20 weeks on a series. I don't know what I would do for 20 weeks in a room with other writers. Just end up staring at our feet. I don't get it. I'm not scoffing at it in the slightest. I just don't understand it. We spend far less time, but then we do the same work. We just do a lot of it independently and kind of check in with each other as opposed to collectively in a room. It's just a different way of breaking series. Both work, obviously. So yeah, it's funny. I meet Americans in Hollywood now, and I kind of joke with them sometimes. Like I almost wish I had a French accent or something, because I feel like people would understand that even though I sound American, I'm kind of not in the sense that I don't know all their norms and everything. So, but yeah, so it's just a different perspective. I don't think it's any bigger or better. It's just slightly different way of approaching TV.
That's very interesting. I actually hadn't heard about the differences in American versus British writers' room. And you mentioned that it's a little bit more independent in breaking the story. Is it that everybody kind of gets an assignment for an episode in a British room and then you just come back later?
Absolutely. I'm guessing now because I haven't been in American writers' rooms. I think what happens in American writers' rooms
Mhm.
is not only do you break the series as a team in terms of really determining what content falls in every episode. We do that too.
Right.
We determine content in episode. I believe, and again, and probably someone will jump up and yell that I'm slightly wrong about something, but I believe that the breaking within every episode
Hmm.
kind of happens in the room, at least to some extent. And so there's a collective work on sharpening every episode, sort of as
Oh.
a team, and then people go off and write their episodes. I believe that's how it works.
Mm.
Whereas in the UK, there's a collective breaking of a series. I think in my case anyways, I do a bit more work before before the room starts, so that we're starting on a framework. We improve the framework in a room. Episode writers are essential for this.
Right.
But then once the content is sort of decided, people go off and independently work with sort of like, okay, if this is my content, how do I want to structure my episode? Like, what do I want to start with? What do I want to end with? What's my genre motor? Like, I know I need to hit these 10 points, but how do I want to hit them? And we sort of do that a little bit more independently.
Gotcha.
But you're always checking in with script editors, which are also essential and not really a role that exists in the US. And your showrunners, of course, just sort of saying, so you're sharing outlines and all that kind of stuff, but that work is done more independently. Uh,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And that script editor role, what is that doesn't exist in the American system?
I wish I had one of my fabulous script editors that I've worked with on the call with me, because I'm sure they would define their role much better. But I think they're also called story producers. I'm pretty sure script editor doesn't exist in the US, but they're kind of a story coordinator who works under producers and under the showrunner, and
Gotcha.
really deals one-on-one with episode writers. And they're also in the room, in the writer's room with you, helping you break the story. They're essential and they're wonderful.
That's very interesting. And when you mentioned breaking a story, um, for when you were approaching the All Her Fault novel, was there any difficulty in breaking that story into the indistinct episodes? Or anything you can recall about actually taking that novel apart and kind of putting it back together in the form of a show?
Sure. But not because there was anything wrong with the book, really. It's the usual challenge. In fact, I would say overall,
Hmm.
All Her Fault was easier to break than most books. The biggest challenge you're dealing with, I think, with adaptations, and I've done a ton of them, is even really long books very rarely equal 8 episodes of fast-paced television.
Really?
And the best example is, look at the Harry Potter books, right?
Hmm.
Those books are all around 500 pages long,
Yeah.
right? And they're filmed very faithfully because there's a huge fan base for those, right? So when they made those movies, you couldn't make huge changes, right? Like, the
Yeah.
fans really want to see every scene. Well, those movies are about 2.5 hours long.
Hmm.
So 500 pages would be about 2.5 hours of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So your average domestic thriller, which is what a lot of what I do, is, around 300, 350 pages. So it's
Mhm.
around 2 hours of content. We filmed it, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
a lot of what I do isn't, sometimes you have to make big changes, and certainly some changes were made to All Her Fault. But overall, what you're doing, especially with All Her Fault, isn't so much these big substantive changes. It's much more additive than anything else. So
Mhm.
you get this incredible framework from Andrea's book. And I'm not saying that just to be complimentary. It's an incredible book with a huge fan base for a reason.
Mhm.
These incredible opening and this incredible conclusion, and so many cool twists and turns in the middle. And the first part of the process is generally, kind of planting flags in the ground. You know what I mean? Like, this, we need to open here. And this is where this twist is going to land. And I want to build to this, and I want to build to that. And that's 6. And that we can't know this piece of information to the end of 7. So top of 8 is this, but so you start planting flags. The flags move, of course,
Yeah.
but you plant flags, and then it's all about, well, okay, well, if I know if that's the twist that's coming at the end of episode 5, for
Right.
example, um, what's everything I can do to build up to that twist in the biggest way possible? What isn't in the book that I can add to it? What can I bring to this that makes that twist that Andrea's given me land even harder and bigger? Uh,
Right.
because if she had written all that stuff out, it would be a 5,000 page novel.
Yeah.
Just, you know, so a lot of what I did with All Her Fault was additive more than anything else.
Got it. That's very interesting. And were there Were there major changes to the book? I have not had a chance to read it myself. Or how much was additive in the show, given that you have extra, 4 or 5 hours to fill?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say there's some simple things like the ending, which everybody has seen now. I assume you've seen
Right.
the show.
Yes, very much.
Right. So Peter switched the babies, Marissa kills Peter. You can't, that's from the book. Thank you, Andrea. What a
Yeah.
unbelievable, but how that all plays out is completely different in the book.
Really?
Oh, completely different. There is no showdown. Carrie never shows up with a gun. There's like none of that stuff.
Oh,
It didn't unfold that way. And Marissa killing Peter is on one piece of paper. It's just a newspaper. It's very clever in the book. It's just a newspaper article of like this couple went on vacation and this man died of an allergy. And as a reader, it was Marissa, right?
right, right.
So it's the first step of sort of what you add is, well, that's really fun in a novel to see
Hmm.
that little newspaper clip because it's really clever.
Yeah.
You want to see it play out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a television show. So the way everything unfolds, for example, so it's the beats are the same. It's the reveal of what Peter did and the decision that Marissa makes to do what she does.
Right.
But how that all plays out, it needs to be juicy and bigger and visual. So those kinds of changes are the first kinds of changes. The second
Interesting.
kinds of changes is like I said, additive. So Detective Alcrez, Michael Pena's character, didn't exist in the book. So
Really?
he's added in, and his son's conditioned. All of this is new and really personal stuff to me. I have a son with a whole lot of disabilities, so it was very personal stuff for me.
Hmm.
I knew that where his storyline was going was he's got to put this thing together that has to do with synesthesia, which is in the book.
Right.
Which is that's sort of the clue that makes him realize what really happened. And so, since I knew his character was going to have to make a discovery that had to do with kind of neurodivergence,
Hmm.
I said, "Well, okay, so how can I build to that in the
Right.
biggest way possible?" So you build out a character and you build out a world, and he's raising a kid with neurological issues, and you make a whole big storyline out of it. So that
Yeah.
hopefully by the time he gets to the end and it lands with this discovery, it feels like it all kind of connects. So all of that was created. And then the other big one I would say was the Irvine family history. So Brian's not disabled in the book, so
Oh.
all of that stuff there. Was just fleshing out those characters again, just having more content to fill. And what do I want to say about this family?
Hmm.
I was interested to try to explore physical disability. And I thought, well, what can I say about Brian and Leah, these siblings, and what can I really say about Peter?
Right.
That's gonna help make that ending land.
Yeah.
We did. Like, what's the worst thing that Peter could have done to his siblings, so that it helps chime with that ending? Because switching babies is a pretty big deal, and so I really wanted to lay the groundwork that this dude was capable of some major deception. So,
Yeah.
so it's all just additive. It's just more. It's stuff that I really love. It's just squeezing more juice out of twists and turns in a framework that I was handed from Andrea.
That's so interesting. I think for me, Detective Alcaraz seems like such an integral part in his relation with his son and his eventual choices, to go against his own code seem kind of integral to the story. So that's interesting to hear that they in fact weren't in the novel. It feels like they give an interesting counterpoint to like like the theme, which is, which I feel is like, what would you do?
Mhm.
You know, he would break his own code in a way that other people are, but it's an interesting counterpoint that you would see it as a good act in some ways versus, what
Yeah.
Peter's done, which is generally frowned upon.
Gray areas. Not everything.
Yeah.
Quite. Yeah. No, he was great, and Michael Pena was great in the role. Just fabulous. So.
That's very interesting. Now, I'd love to talk about the actual kind of mechanics of building a writer's room. Um, are you, as showrunner, and I'm not the most familiar with the process of actually assembling one, is it that you are interviewing writers to actually put the team together, or is that kind of a separate, maybe studio role?
No, no. I mean, the studio always approves the writers, I think, based
Right.
on their writing examples. So you're looking for people. In my case, you always want people with genre experience because it's just a different animal than drama.
Ah,
And by that same token, I would be useless in a drama writer rooms.
yeah.
So you're looking for people who are comfortable and familiar and enjoy genre writing and
Right.
understand the kind of way that that's constructed. So you're reading a million examples, and then you're just talking to people, and a lot of it's just about vibe. I mean, a lot of it's just about like, who seems like they're gonna it's not just be fun, but be helpful and
Mm-hmm.
understand that we're all there, myself included, to serve a story. You know what I mean? Like that's the attitude. Is
Yeah.
it's not about um, your particular desire or wish. It's about what's best for the show in general, and that's something that everybody has to remember. Like I said, myself included. So, I think you're always looking for that attitude, whether it's writers or directors or producers or anybody. You gotta. If we're not all serving the story as a whole, then we're gonna have problems. So that's generally what it is. It's a combination of writing talent and skills, and also just like I said, vibe. We have great writers. It's not our fault. I adore them still. We still talk all the time.
That's very cool. And these samples, I'm curious, is it samples, I presume, given that they have genre experience, just of their other scripts that have been produced, or kind of unwritten things that are out there from an agent?
From an agent, they could have been produced, but they
Right.
certainly have to be. A lot of episode writers have never necessarily been produced.
Hmm.
They're still learning. Some of them have. It just depends. But there's no requirement. And it's not unusual for an episode writer to never have had anything made. That's totally fine.
Gotcha. Very interesting. I just, yeah, I'd like to give I guess, a background to. We have many aspiring writers in the that watch that I think they'd find it interesting exactly how these people build their careers. And going back to the start of yours, how was it that you first kind of, you had gone to film school? Were you writing on your own and submitting these to whatever you'd written to agencies to try and kind of garner a voice or attraction to your abilities?
Absolutely. So a lot of your listeners are young, like aspiring writers and stuff like that.
Yes, very much.
Um, yeah, when I was in my 20s, I went to Loyola Marymount University, which was of all the LA schools, not USC and UCLA, and we were totally intimidated. Um, and no, I worked as best I could in the industry. I was a reader at CAA back when they
Hmm.
had readers and they paid $40 a script to read
Nice.
coverage, and you had to drive into town and pick up the scripts yourself.
Oh, wow.
So like the whole thing was like 6 hours worth of work for $40. But
That's cool.
no, I did that while I was in film school. When I graduated, I also read for Focus Features. And then when I graduated, I spent about a year working at Lightstorm Entertainment, which is James Cameron's company. I was just a development assistant. So
Nice.
always had aspirations to be a writer. Never really wanted to be anything else. So
Hmm.
yes, was writing. I never had an agent, any of it. So it's, I couldn't get one. I mean, I wasn't at that level yet at all.
Right.
It's very, very hard. So yeah, it's always felt like at that age, I just remember, for any of your young listeners listening out there, I am now 47 years old. So I've graduated when I was 25. So I'm 22 years out of film school now. And so
Hmm.
it's not only my career, but it's a career of everybody I knew from film school, which is a lot of people. So I've seen the trajectory of a lot of people's careers.
Yeah.
Um, I used to think when I was that age that it was all about who you knew.
Hmm.
And I imagine that that's still probably somewhat still the sentiment, is that the people who have a friend who is an agent or have an internship somewhere where some producer's willing to read that, like that it was all about penetrating some bubble or wall of Hollywood that was so hard to get through. And
Right.
22 years out from that experience, I can honestly say that everybody who's made it, and by that I just mean sustained some sort of reasonable career over the years in Hollywood, none of them were connected with anybody. None of them had a magical connection, and plenty of people with magical connections, nothing came of it. Um,
Yeah.
the defining characteristic of everybody who's been able to sustain a career is just that they work really hard.
Hmm.
And that might sound a little depressing, in the sense that but I would have loved to have heard that when I was younger, because it would have let me know that I was way more in control of my outcome than I thought I was.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So if you enjoy the work, then this is what you should be doing, and just keep doing it,
Hmm.
and it'll on some level be okay. So I really believe that you're much more in control of the outcome of things than you think.
I think that's very heartening to hear, because I think even in, as you said, in the modern day, yes, that is kind of the perception that you have to know but somebody if you're not, the whole Nepo baby thing that was going on a while ago, which is, I,
Sure.
It's a couple people. It's only like 20 people across. I mean, it's just such, there's so many people working that you only notice the top 10
Yeah.
or something.
And it happens. Of course, I would have loved to have had more connections. It would have been
Yeah.
great. There's also people, and I want to, in all fairness, who work very, very, very hard and haven't had their break yet. So I don't want to imply that if somebody hasn't
Yeah.
had a break, then they're lazy, because that's not true.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It's just the vast majority of people who sustained a career just
Hmm.
enjoyed the work and kept at it.
That's great to hear, because I think that's what, that it opens it up to anybody. Anyone can do this as long as you actually have the passion and the drive.
I really think so.
And going back a couple, do you recall one of the first scripts you wrote that got you attention or got you something a little bit further in that career towards writing on those shows?
No, well, okay. Almost everything you write at first just isn't good. And you gotta take that pressure off of yourself. Like it's not gonna work probably. Um, I think the first thing that I really wrote was a show that was eventually made in Scandinavia. It did not turn out well. I want to be clear about that. It's not a good show, but the pilot that I wrote was very strong. And that got attention in the UK, and that's got
Gotcha.
me at my agency that I'm at now. And that was the first the first time I married a couple genres that I really enjoyed very, very much. And really felt like I kind of hit my stride. But that must have been like my seventh or eighth script or something like
Really?
that, at least. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
just to say that it takes a while to figure out what you're good at and what you enjoy.
You weren't kidding about the hard work, but
Sorry.
I think that's good. I mean, it shows people. I think we've had other guests on the show, and I think one of the consistent things that has been said across all guests is that you're going to be really, really bad at it at the start, but you just have to keep going at it, because there's no one that's actually like Mozart, 6 years old writing something great.
No one is. No one is. Writing is rewriting. Like
Mm.
what was it? I had a screenwriting professor tell me once, don't write it well, just write it down. Just write it down. You can make it good later. Just get it on
Yeah.
the page. Like, let it suck. It's okay. So it's just okay to write shit and just rewrite. Yeah.
Well, that's funny. And speaking of rewriting, I heard in a different interview about this show, All Her Fault, that it was originally written for Dublin, where it was based, and then reset in Chicago. Were there any difficulties in resetting it, or anything that Chicago opened up as a possibility for the story?
There weren't difficulties because Andrea, all of her novels, at least to my knowledge, that's not true. She's got a couple. I've read most of what she's written. She's got one or two that feel culturally specific to Ireland and Dublin, and where the story itself is really intrinsically baked into the culture.
Right.
But many of her books have a really universal feel to them, where Dublin is this interesting place and culture, but the place and the culture don't affect the main plot trajectory in any way, like
Right.
the universality of the storyline. So this was one of those storylines for sure, where
Mhm.
you could somewhat easily transpose it. Chicago, what it opened up, or what it allowed us to do, there's a lot of thought about where to set it in America.
Right.
We wanted this story to feel big and broad. We wanted this kidnapping to feel like it could have happened to anybody. We didn't want it to feel like something that would happen in New York or in San Diego or something, these cities in America that feel specific. We wanted it to have a middle America sort of feel to it,
Right.
but we wanted the fun of a city, and Chicago felt like a good pick in the middle. No doorman and no palm
Yes.
trees. Yeah.
Somewhere right down that kind of Midwest barrel
Yeah.
where it could go
Just feels
to the East Coast,
relatable
West.
to everybody, so that's what Chicago gave us.
Interesting. And is there a scene looking back on the show that you're maybe proud of writing, that you look back and you say, wow, that kind of came out nicely, or that was maybe a difficult scene to write that you're happy worked out in the end?
I would highlight two things. The first thing I would highlight is episode 4, when Detective Alcaraz is talking to Marissa about his fears about raising his kid.
Mm-hmm.
and what he worries about. Because all of that's just straight out of my mouth and out of my husband's mouth. We're raising a son with very similar disabilities. So that
Right.
stuff was really personal. And the reason I'm proud of it is because, whenever you go that personal on something, so many things could go wrong. You know what I mean? So many things could go wrong. Your broadcaster could give you notes about the scene that would be insensitive, or your producer could be somebody who doesn't protect the integrity of it, or your
Right.
director could just, have a bad attitude about it, or your actor could maybe not be as sensitive to it or understanding or curious or any of those things. And like none of that happened. Like everything went right. Everyone was great.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole storyline was handled really well. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of everybody involved for that.
Right.
As for myself, if I'm being totally selfish, so I'm very proud of episode 8 as a whole.
Right.
Um, this was a really complex story with a pace that really had to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched so many thrillers where the ending just kind of feels like, wah, wah. Like I've watched this one and like it's just this letdown. It's build, 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 and then it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And I really cared about not doing that to the audience. And I took real pride in I want every piece of this puzzle to line up and I want it to feel really satisfying. And that to me is really it's just a very difficult job to do. It's a fun job, but it's a difficult job. And episode 8 was the easiest episode to write. It was the easiest episode to shoot, the easiest episode to edit because everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody was there everybody knew every beat.
Yeah.
Everybody knew every single thing that was going on. Obviously, it's directed beautifully and performed beautifully. And I mean, performances are incredible in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very proud of all of that because if I hadn't done all that hard work, there's a scene. If I hadn't done all the hard work, then it would have been a sloppy mess to write, a sloppy mess to film, and a sloppy mess to edit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. So I'm proud of that episode.
Well, I think it's incredibly interesting to hear that showdown, getting everybody, all these people that had these separate, disconnected stories, or maybe stories that didn't exist in the novel,
Mhm.
together into one room. I think as watching it, I remember thinking, what's going on with this brother? I was like, I get, he's involved, but I was like, I really don't think he did it, So I was like, how is he going to come into this? And then the final reveal that Peter is in fact even worse than the worst guy you thought he was. That was very awesome to just see it all come crashing down into one kind of big moment and further reveals further drama. And it's he's a great guy. I really like that Peter. He's
Yeah,
he's like a fun dude.
he's a special one. That Peter. Yeah, he's a unique guy. He's a great villain.
He's caring. He's really caring.
He's intensely caring.
I think perhaps the most the line that I remember most is earlier in the show when I think they ask each other like, oh, what do you remember most about about Milo?
What is your favorite thing about Milo?
Exactly. And he says, when he has a nightmare and he can comfort him. I was like, that was kind of weird, but
That's a little off-putting.
I was like, I guess, I don't have kids. So maybe that's maybe that's a parent thing. You want to comfort them.
No, your reaction was correct. That's a little bit of an effed up thing to love about your son.
Yeah, I think it was, it's something that you kind of just like store away when you're watching a murder mystery. You're like kind of building in these points. You're like, maybe I'll come back to that. I don't know if this guy's the killer. And then you're like,
it's lodged somewhere back here. That's not quite right.
When it comes out, I was like, oh, he was just off it from the start. He was out of his mind.
Yeah.
But speaking of that final episode where everything comes together, and you spoke about how it was directed so beautifully. Mm-hmm. Do you have any aspirations to step into the directing realm or to take over that for your own shows?
I wish I did. And I've really spent some time examining that. I think that there's two reasons why I want it. And I think the first is I have so much respect for the job. It's so hard. It's so hard. And I watched directors do it. And I watched our two directors, Mickey Spyro and Kate Dennis, two incredible women direct this series. There's just such a multitude of skill sets that you need. Such a visual skill set that I don't think I have. And just this constant practicality, and just scripts can't have everything on the page. They'd be really cumbersome, annoying reads if they did. So there's so much you have to fill in. okay, in the scene, this character is making a sandwich. What time of day in it? Has this person changed out of their work clothes? What, all the decisions that make the scene feel right that you don't think
Right.
about when you're watching. A lot of that falls into a director's lap. In addition to just tone and just all of it. So no, I don't think I have the best skill set for it. But the other thing is, I am by nature an introvert. I
Hmm.
enjoy people very much, but I am tired after being on set all day. I'm
Yeah.
tired after 12 hours of social interaction and
Hmm.
very eager to get back to my office and kind of the quiet and all that kind of stuff. And with directing, there is no escape. You don't get to go back into your face. It's nonstop interaction. And most directors that I know are extroverts on some level, at least. They
Right.
really get their energy from all the questions and all the interactions, and they love helping people, and they love being the problem solver and having that level of interaction. I think I would tucker myself out pretty quickly. So I have given it some thought.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to hide in my office every chance I get.
No, I think that's such an interesting point you make that something, the casual film goer, you think, oh, directing, and put the camera there. But there's
Oh,
just, there's so many things. Really, as you pointed out, has this person changed? You never think about it. But if it's done incorrectly, everybody's going to be wondering
it's
it throughout
wrong.
the
It's
scene.
weird. Like, why is it 9 o'clock at night and she's still in her work? Like, what? I don't. It's just every decision has to be made,
Yeah.
and that's like a simple one. You know what I mean? But if
Mhm.
you write all that out in the script, then it's just a boring read. So you don't write it all out. So no, and just all the look and the feel and the tone and then it's managing all the different actors and their different needs and their different styles of delivery, making sure the voices kind of chime together and all that. There's just a huge amount of work that goes into bringing it all to life.
Yeah.
It's an incredible skill.
And with that amount of work, someone that has to take that on, someone you have to work closely with and trust a lot. How did you land on Minky and Kate? People that did you know them before? Was there an interview process?
There isn't it. Well, interview is a strong. You meet people, but I
Yeah.
mean, interview is a strong word. But I hadn't met either one of them before. Carnival Films, who are my producers on this, who I have worked with for a long,
Hmm.
long time and who I adore, they had worked with Minky before. Um,
Okay.
so it's much like the finding episode writers, although directors are obviously way above episode writers. But it's the same idea of
Hmm.
I'm looking at Minky's past work, and then I'm meeting with Minky, and it's basically all about vibes.
Hmm.
He was also an executive producer on this and was hugely involved in the whole process and the scripts and all that kind of stuff. So it was really very much a collaborator.
Yeah.
So you want somebody who, again, it's that same attitude of you're there to serve a story that's bigger than you.
Hmm.
What's the best for the story, not what do I feel like directing the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And same attitude with writing. Like you can't just love something and force it into a story if it doesn't work.
Right.
So it's a lot of its vibes. So no, Minky was incredible. She set the tone. She did the first 4 episodes. So she's really setting the world and setting the characters. And that's first block is where all those actors are going to have the most questions about their character, their relationships, their interactions, all that kind of stuff. Kate came in and had 5 really distinct episodes. So she had the episode 5, which was the one where everybody was inside kind of the house the whole time and
Right.
waiting for so that big kind of pressure cooker. She had episode 6 where Milo comes home and sort of everything changes. She had the flashback to Carrie's life for episode 7, and then she had all these stunts and all this stuff
Yeah.
for episode 8. So she really had her hands full. She just did an incredible job. I'd work with either one of those women again in a heartbeat.
That's a very interesting process, just vibes and a lot amount of trust going both ways to bring someone in and say, I trust you. I feel that you're able to do this.
It's just about trust and respect for one another and respecting their needs as a director, and them respecting
Right.
the scripts. And that's just, it can go just as badly as it can go well, but it went really well on this one.
And speaking of going well, was there anything that Minky or Kate, I presume there were many, but anything that you recall they brought to a scene or brought to the show that that perhaps wasn't in the script or something you had anticipated?
Well, they shot the scripts pretty loyally. So I
Mhm.
can't say that there's I can't say that they changed something on set. That would have been kind of not cool if they'd done that. So no, they shot the
Right.
scripts very loyally, but
Hmm.
there was lots of scenes that I felt uncertain about on the page.
Okay.
I questioned myself, is this good enough? A perfect example is in episode 2, while they're at the conference center, kind of waiting for the big press conference,
Yeah.
and there's Leah sees a reporter and yells at them, and then they get the prank call and everything. The way that was on the page, for this is just one example. Um, it's I worried about that all if it was just too busy, if there was too much going on. And I
Hmm.
thought he just did an incredible job. It didn't feel too rushed. It didn't feel too busy. It didn't feel like at any point anything lost focus. I love right when Jetty swooped in. Like all that has to be choreographed on
Yeah.
set. And I think she did an incredible job of taking a so-so sequence on the page and making it really work. Same with Kate. I would say a lot of it was episode 8 in particular. First off, she made that car scene, the car crash looked great. I thought that's
Oh
all.
yeah.
And I mean, that's there. I can't tell you how many meetings there were about how to do the car crash. Like there was a lot of,
Really?
so that's her leading that charge. But she also did really great with the fact that, for example, we had to have Jake Lacey and Sophia Lillis fight over a gun. Well, Jake Lacey's about 6'2", and Sophia Lillis is like 5'1".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. I remember seeing them too at the read through, and they were like this, and I was like, I don't know how that's gonna look. It
Yeah.
just looks silly because he would just overpower her in a second.
Hmm.
The way she did it with the backing up and the wall, and it was so done. It looked great at the end of the day. So it's stuff like that they just make work. Yeah, no, they're both great.
That's super interesting. And to me, that calls back to what you said about the clothes. You write into the show, they struggle for the gun. You're like, okay, great. Obviously they would struggle for the gun, but then you get on set and you realize
That work.
this guy's huge. And then you have someone who's 5 foot. It's not going to,
It's just gonna look totally stupid. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
she just never complained for 1 second, they just made it work. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's an incredible skill set. That's a lot more than just yelling action and then giving people notes on their performance. There's so much
Mhm.
more to it than that.
And I think when I watched the show, I never trying to remember it now. I'm like, wow, that was really tense. And she's going, no, no, no. Or like, you can have it, I think was the line.
Yeah, you can have it.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was like, what a fight. But then, if you take a step out of it, to be like, oh, I feel like he would have won that really. But it plays very much like a struggle.
It's that has to do with camera. I can only assume, again, I'm not Kate, she'd speak to this much
Yeah.
better, of course, but I can only assume that if the camera were further out, you might really notice the physical difference. But the way it's
Yeah.
shot and the way the camera, I think, is on her primarily or whatever, I
Mhm.
can't remember exactly how she does it. It works. But like that all has to be planned out
Yeah.
and figured out, so yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. Because if it was a wide shot, you'd be like, well, this guy's huge. And then
Exactly.
it ruins the scene. And then like the whole show basically falls apart off of one bad call. But you get someone like Kate who's paying attention to those things. And then I think the best direction I think I heard, and like that old Hollywood is like the stuff you don't notice. You'll never notice. You'd never have paid attention to that unless someone had done it wrong.
Yep, exactly. No.
Yeah.
So it's but all I have to write is they struggle for the gun. It makes screenwriting look easy.
That's funny. And then I guess I'd love to go back to kind of the age old question, because you mentioned going to film school. The classic one. Do you think it was something that you would encourage in the modern day, or something or maybe just your own experience found to be valuable?
Everything's changed so much. I mean, I'd like to think I'm not that old, you know what I mean? But everything's changed so quickly.
Right.
I really enjoyed film school, and more than anything, yes, I learned a lot for sure. I do think that you can replicate a lot of what you learn now with what's online. There's better courses that you can take, single course. Like there's options to not get a very expensive film degree and to instead take some classes. There's more online like there's just more out there now than there was when I went in 2000.
Right.
So part of it is what you learn in terms of a skill set. Can you replicate that elsewhere? Probably. One of the most valuable things though is I'm still friends 22 years later with everybody I knew from film school. And for a long time, we were helping each other out, trying to get our foot in the door and figure out what we were doing. So there's the community element of things too, which might be harder to replicate for some people, might not be. They might know a bunch of people. I'm not sure. Um, I remember, I was very lucky. My parents split the cost of film school with me, so I only had to pay off half of it. But it was still really expensive and took me a really long time and was a big financial burden for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful I didn't have to do the whole thing. I think I'd still be paying it today.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's tricky. I don't think the answer is black and white. I think it depends on your circumstances. I think it depends on your desire. I think it depends. You have to be practical about the finances because
Mm-hmm.
being saddled with $70,000 or $80,000 worth of debt at 22 or 23, you might not have a full concept of how long you're going to be paying that off.
Yeah.
So I don't think that people should be flippant and just be like, "Oh, go to film school. It's a great experience." Well, it is a great experience, but
Yeah.
you might be paying for that great experience until you're 60.
Yeah.
So I think people's individual finances and the other opportunities that are present to them, the other communities they might be able to form or the other classes they might be able to take, should be taken. It's got to be weighed up, and the cost of school and it's just gone up and up and up so much. So I'm not going to blindly say, "Oh, go to school." No, take the decision carefully, depending on your financial situation. I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot. I have a hard time imagining my life without it. But if it had not been an option to me, it wouldn't have stopped me. Let's put it that way.
Thank you for that answer. I think, as you pointed out, it's a bigger question than just, should I study or should I not, or what the value of just that education is. There's more factors taken into that.
So I think so. I mean, it's just the cost of it was bad back then, and I think it's only skyrocketed since. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now moving on from crippling debt to something a little more lighthearted. When you speak of these shows that you watch, other thrillers, is there anything you've seen perhaps recently that you found interesting or did something unique as a writer who's kind of looking behind the scenes at the structure of the show or maybe more attuned to things than other viewers?
I recently have seen, I'm Saving Beef too. Haven't seen that one yet.
Okay.
So I haven't done that. I would say the last show that I really carefully watched was DTF St. Louis.
Okay.
I think I found it incredible. Have you seen it?
I have not yet. No.
I won't spoil anything for you. I really love a twist and a turn and a plot engine that keeps going. I
Mm-hmm.
would definitely say the DTF St. Louis doesn't do that, but they don't try. It's not like they're trying and failing, that they're
Right.
profoundly slower in a good way, in a way that sucks you into the mood and the tone of everything. I think that was probably one of the most, I don't want to say what happens, but when you get to the end and you realize how lonely the men are in this series, that's not giving anything away. Uh,
Right.
I haven't seen a depiction of male loneliness like that in a crime show ever, maybe. And I
Hmm.
found really, really moving and profound. So, character-wise, I was just crime-wise, it was slow and not everything quite added up, but I was kinda like, I'm sitting there on my couch being a little judgy.
Yeah.
But character-wise, I was in awe and totally humbled, at what they accomplished there. It's quite sad and quite beautiful. So no, I was pretty floored by that one. That's my most recent watch.
Okay. That's going to the top of the list and looking back at perhaps your early interactions with film and television, were there shows, television shows, films, or even books that sparked that interest for you?
Yeah, I came up, I became an adult right around the time where all the twists were really landing.
Right.
So, Sixth Sense,
Oh yeah.
Fight Club, and
Hmm.
Memento
Oh,
were like
the
my,
Holy Trinity.
yeah, so I think they span from, I'm gonna misquote it, but from around 97 to like 2000, right around in there. So
Yeah.
those movies. And I just that twist, the art of the twist ending
Mm-hmm.
and the art of the swerve and the reveal and the sucker punch it can make you feel.
Yeah.
A specific feeling, what to me, a good twist, when it lands, your feeling should be, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see that. Like that's when it
Yeah.
as well. And I think that we've lost some of that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to me, in order to pull off a twist, what writers will do is they'll simply hide the information so much.
Right.
It comes out at the end, you're like, oh, so the killer was the waiter who was on screen for 2 seconds in episode 2.
Yeah.
Not fun. I shouldn't have guessed that. That's horse manure. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
it's not fun. It's fun when like it was right there, but I missed it.
Yeah.
And all of those twists, you know, you rewatch Sixth Sense, Memento, Fight Club, it's all right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't believe you didn't see it, sort of a thing. So that kind of a twist that I just remember feeling punched in the stomach in a good way for each one of those films. And that's really
Mhm.
what I've never really strayed in terms of, I've written some films and I mostly do TV now, but that feeling is, I'm always chasing that feeling.
That's so cool. I didn't realize how, watching these movies later, that, yeah, it was kind of a quick succession when they all came out, just one after the
I was
other.
right at the perfect age. I was around 20 or 21 or something like that. And it was
Yeah.
just so impactful, those movies. That's all anybody talked about.
Time to be alive. But also, I think, congratulations to yourself. All her fault. When you start looking back on it with the line that, Jake Lacy says to Milo, that weird nightmare line where you're like, oh yeah, it's the thing you kind of put away. And then later you're like, yeah, that was really weird when he said
That dude
that.
is weird. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
he'd been controlling, you start to realize the patterns, and then you're like, oh, dude, I should have called that. But then it hits and you realize, okay, this wasn't out of the blue. It is justified, and it's there the whole time if you look for it.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're going to have to wrap up soon. But if you had, just as a final question, any advice, you could go back to 2000. You've just seen these movies, you're loving it, and you think, all right, I need to, I'm in film school, got to do this. What advice would you give yourself for maybe mistakes made or things that just you couldn't have known at that time?
The thing I didn't know and when I was younger, and again, if you have younger listeners out there, I used to think that there was a time when you quote unquote made it,
Right.
where you made it and you crossed some sort of threshold or you had some level of success. You sold a
Hmm.
script or you got a deal or you got an award or something, right?
Right.
And it happened, and then the attempts to make it were over because you were, you know what I mean? You had the brass ring and you're in the inside now and it's all okay. It's
Yeah.
just not how it works. You're constantly working to keep your career going. And I don't want that to sound depressing. I mean it to sound reassuring in the sense that you just dig in and just enjoy doing the work. Because even after, I mean, the show has been a huge success. All Our Fault's been a huge hit for Peacock.
Yeah.
I'm still worried about the next thing. It just never ends. You know what I mean? And it didn't end after I made shows in Scandinavia. It didn't end after I made a show for BBC One. It doesn't end. You're always working towards the next thing. So there is no such thing as making it, really. There's
Yeah.
just enjoying the work and doing your best to sustain a career and raise your family on it. That's all it is. And that's true of everybody. I mean, I suppose Steven Spielberg probably is not worried about his next job. Fair enough. I mean, but
Yeah.
for 99% of us, 99% of us, there's just up years and there's down years, and you just got to kind of do your best to ride the wave, and the wave changes, and it's just how it is. So there's this idea that one day you're going to make it and the worry about it will be over. It doesn't work that way. You just kind of keep at it, just landing jobs, and
Yeah.
you just, again, I think the secret is just to enjoy the work.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's relieving to hear, because if you're new to the industry, or maybe haven't even, you're writing your first script or whatever it is, you're thinking, wow, I need to make it. And then, I need to sell this to be employed. I think you're on the exact same level as anyone who's actually produced anything. You're actually the
I'm
level
still
of
just needing to
success.
sell things to be employed. Like it's
Yeah.
just the level changes, admittedly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing changes over the years, but it's still the same concept.
You're just as successful technically
Money
as
next
everybody
project,
else.
it gets made.
Yeah.
Just all it is. So it's you just kind of got to make, peace with that's just sort of how it works. So, and it's
Yeah.
not a bad life. If you enjoy the work, it's a really great life.
That's wonderful to hear. So as someone who has made an excellent TV show and many more, thank you very much, Megan Gallagher, for coming on the show and speaking to us about All Her Fault.
Thank you very much for having me. This was a pleasure.